Hi, guys. Looks like a few of you made it in to the Abnormal Family Live tonight. Uh, let's see. I want to start off by thanking the Abnormal Family for making it in on such a short notice. I forgot to put it out tonight. I've been super slow at getting things done. Uh, I don't know. It's been hectic. I've got a lot going on, and I'm trying to cover a lot of bases. Thank God I got the moderators that stepped up and are helping me right now. And speaking of the moderators, I want to thank Barb and Dawn, and I'm not sure if Miss Slater made it in tonight. Everything is moving so fast, but I want to thank them for being here tonight on such a short notice and being able to be with us. A a guest I have tonight. He's been on my channel for a long time, and I've actually looked forward to meeting him. He's been a viewer for quite a while. Uh, he has, I think, a couple of encounters we're going to talk about, and I'll probably share a little bit about growing up and everything, and kind of talk with him about it. But there's a little girl also. Her name's Claire, and she has asked for a autographed shirt, and I'm going to make sure she gets that. She's going through and has went through a really rough time, and I want her and her mom to know that my prayers are with them, and she will get an autographed shirt. Not a problem. I will personally deliver it to you guys for her. Just let me know, like I said, her favorite color and size. Uh, but anyway, without going into a lot more, don't forget this Thursday at 7 o'clock, I'll be doing the part two with Bettina Moss on her channel. And then the 25th, I will be doing a live with D.A. Roberts at 8 o'clock p.m. all Central Standard Time. We're going to go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and bring John in, and we'll start talking to him about his encounter. All right, it's good to have you. I told everybody I've been looking forward to meeting you.
It's good. It's good to be here, Mike.
Uh, I'll let you go ahead and kind of introduce yourself and kind of like your experiences you've had and everything, and then we'll talk about what's happened.
Okay, my name's John. I go by Sky King on YouTube, and I had an encounter with a white Sasquatch when I was 9 years old, 1962. Um, I was born and raised in West Virginia to a coal miner. I'm the 10th child of a coal miner. Um, we lived very impoverished area, and we would go up into the mountains, and there was a couple of apple orchards up in the mountains that we would go to, and we called them horse apples. They were just huge apples. Uh, but that place had a certain evil feel to it that we just did not like that. We would get our apples and leave because we always felt like something was there besides we were. And so we would hurry and get our apples and come off the mountain. And in 62, I was 9, and in the fall and the winter, we began to hear some screams and howls that we couldn't explain. We'd never heard anything like that. Uh, I'd heard bobcat and cougar and seen a lot of black bears, but nothing like this. It would be a scream, start out like a woman screaming, but the volume was just phenomenal. Um, and then it would just go from a scream into the worst, loudest growl um, that we've ever heard, and it would just make my skin crawl. It's the screams and the howls that really affect me more now than even seeing this thing. Um, I would always ask my brother, one of my brothers who helped me on a paper route when I was 9 years old. I'd ask him, "What is that?" And he would just say, "It's. I guess it's the white thing." Of course, I had never seen it at that point, so I didn't know what the white thing was. But
Right.
obviously, it was talked about around the community, and uh, those screams at nighttime were just, it was commonplace, and we heard them regular, but we had never seen it. There was a place on the mountain where we would make a sled run, and we'd go up to a certain spot and build a fire, and that would be our starting point. And everybody would bring something to the fire when they came, and we would ride sleds down off the mountain and walk back up, drag our sled with us. Um, this particular night, it was middle December because I was going to be 10 Christmas Eve. And so I hadn't had a birthday yet, but it's a lot of snow that year. And we, most everybody was going off the hill about 9 o'clock. Um, so me and three other people were there. And of course, I was the youngest. Um, and I came off the mountain with them, and the fire was still going. We'd let it just burn out. And when we got probably 60 yards away, down close to the bottom of the hill, we heard this thing scream that we had been hearing, but it was real close. And it was like he was in our back pocket. And we turned around, and it was up by the fire. And it was white. It was larger than life. I can't even begin to describe how large it was. I was 9. I knew that I was scared out of my wits. I knew wouldn't be long till he could be on top of us if he wanted to be, or she. But one of the girls that was with us, she just fainted. And 2 guys picked her up and started toward their house across the creek. And we started towards our house, through the back of the woods there. And before we all got away or even turned away from looking at this thing, it screamed again. So it just had its hands up like it was angry. And the second scream didn't start like a woman. It was just a growl. Like, I can't describe it. I've heard lions growl, African lions growl, and it was louder than that and more ferocious than that. So we ran to our house, and my dad was on the porch when we got home, and he said, "Did y'all hear that scream?" And I said, "I didn't just hear it, I seen it. It's up at the fire." And he said, that's it. Y'all can't go out anymore at nighttime after dark. And that's when we rode sleds down the hills at nighttime. We were in school in the daytime. And he said, you can't go back out at night. This is not safe. And so really, he didn't have to tell me that, because I was pretty much done with going out at nighttime. It's never affected my hunting. I left there and went to Texas, spent the bulk of my life in Texas. But there were several dogs in our community that come up, just torn to shreds, arms and legs removed. And we thought it was something else. I never attributed it to that. But now, after hearing all of the stories that how much they dislike dogs and what they do to dogs, I'm more thinking now that it was that Sasquatch doing that, than it was someone else doing it. The screams, when I got past 10 and 11 and 12, I don't remember them as much. I don't know if it came and stayed a while. There were a lot of coal mines there. They strip mined a lot, but there was an old, what they call a drift mouth coal mines, where they rode the trains in, the cars in, not far from our house. And he could have used that, for wintertime. I don't know. But Um, there is some documentation uh, in the Charleston Gazette uh, of a event called they called it the Braxton County Monster, and the drawing was in the hand sketch was in the newspaper, um, and it looked pretty much similar to what we saw, but it was just a very rough drawing um, of what the I think it was a bread man or a coke man saw it on the side of the road, and he was almost in a catatonic state when they got to him. He was just losing his mind from seeing this thing. Because we never saw anything like that. We'd seen the cats and the bears, but nothing like this. Nothing so tall and so big and weighed so much and made so much noise with its mouth. So that I have not ever run into one again. I hope I don't. But mostly, I hope I don't hear one scream again. That's more traumatic to me. The viewing of it, yeah, but the screams, they still give me chills even today. I'm 70 years old, and that was 61 years ago that I saw that thing. Uh, but the noise, the screams of it was way worse to me than seeing it.
And it's interesting too that you're having all that, because up where I'm at, where they're having all these, the sightings, and where my mom had all that and stuff, we're also surrounded by coal mines. And
Mm-hmm.
we have the large rock piles, the deep crevices they leave, and and it's all around us. And it seems like a lot of places have the coal mines around them. And also, another thing is, you said you seen a white one, and you're the only other person besides myself that has witnessed a white one that I've even talked to. And I saw the white one when I was like 12, 13 years old in the back of my mom and dad's truck driving me down to go fishing. They didn't believe me at first when I told them, but it was colored like cigarette ashes. And when we got down there, it started doing what you said. It started doing its hollering, its growling, and then it jumped in the water, and we saw it swim actually across the creek. And then Dad loaded us up and everybody, and we just left.
Like,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, we was gone. We left. We didn't hang around. And you was talking about how bad you were scared. My mom and them had a friend, and in his younger days, whenever my mom and them were younger, I'm guessing probably in the 50s, 60s, maybe early 60s. He was a large guy, rough, the rough kind of guy, fought all the time, wasn't scared of nobody, the tough guy. And he came down to my granny's one night, and he was like, I'm not afraid of it. He said, I'll find it, take care of it. They thought it was just some, pervert prowler, something like that. And he sat on the couch, and he was waiting for it to start that night. And just like always, it started. He took out the front door, went out back around the house, was gone a little bit, and they said he walked back in the house, and they said he was as white as a sheet, and he just fell on the couch.
Mm.
Everybody asked him, I said, what happened? What'd you see? He wouldn't talk about it. Well,
Mm.
a few years back, I contacted him, and he was sick with COVID, and he was dying.
Mm.
And after he passed away, I received a letter from him. And he said, I'm finally going to tell you what I seen 50 years ago.
Wow.
He said when he came around the side of the house, he saw a creature, looked like a dog, werewolf. And he said, my granny used to dump her scraps out the back door. And he said it was feeding itself through the side of its mouth. He said it was just food all over it, just cramming food in its mouth. It was standing bipedal. And he
Mm.
said what bothered him the most is when he came around the corner, it was sideways of him, eating, standing sideways to him. And he said what bothered him the most is it cocked its head, it smiled, and it said, hello.
Oh no.
And that's when he ran to the house, because he said, I knew the size of it, how it looked. If it wanted me dead, he said, I was a dead man.
And it spoke English.
Yeah, it spoke then. I've heard it. I've actually heard it speak.
Mm.
Um, my mom was staying with my granny when she had her stroke, and they
Mm.
put me in the middle bedroom where my mom usually would sleep. Well, my granny, she had an old water cooler, instead of an air conditioner, they had the water coolers,
Mhm.
and she had it by her bed. And I was laying in the bed where my mom normally would, and it was an old house, so you could see like kind of out through the window, the yard light through the water cooler. And I
Mhm.
was laying there just looking at it, and all of a sudden it goes dark, like something was standing there blocking the light. And my
Oh,
mom's name's Kay, and it goes Kay through the air conditioner, but in a really weird voice. Freaked me out bad.
I reckon.
Oh, I jumped up and ran to the front room. It terrified me. We ended up calling my dad, and my dad ended up coming down, and it took off running out through the pasture, and
Mm.
it left that night. So it was crazy.
Well,
So
I had there was a time after I did see this white thing, Sasquatch. Um, I heard some very deep, deep voices talking outside my window, and I told my dad about it, but I couldn't understand what they were saying.
yeah,
The voices were just so deep, um, and I. He said, "What were they saying?" I said, "I don't know. I could hear them talking, but I couldn't distinguish what they were saying." He said, "Did you recognize the voices?" And I said, there was one guy in our town that had a kind of a deep voice, but he said, "Well, it has to be him." And I said, "Well, I don't know who it was. There were two of them with the same deep voice, um, but I never did, even at that point, attribute that to Sasquatch because I didn't know they spoke. Now I do know they speak, and I do know they chatter. I've heard
yes,
Ron Moorhead's Sierra Sounds, and but this was just like it was almost a babbling, but the voice was deep, deep voice. And
yep.
I can't explain it other than just to say it was a deep, deep voice. And I never heard it again after that. My dad said he went and talked to the guy, and the guy said I wasn't even in town, so he didn't know who it was. But I'm I'm saying it was probably that one and another one.
My granny used to compare it to my grandpa was full blood Cherokee, and she would compare it to, she said, a bunch of old Indian men talking. You know how their voice was deep and how they mumbled. You couldn't
Mm-hmm,
understand them, but you could hear them, and we would hear that a lot. And I actually got a friend right now that's invited me to go to a place where a landowner is having trouble right now with that exact problem. He's hearing talking, and he can't find it. So I'm going to end up going there,
oh wow.
seeing what I can find. But yeah, the talking. One of the weird things, and this probably scared me the most. My mom's mom. It happened to her. Uh, she had a built-on porch, and around the porch they had put plexiglass, and you would come up the big concrete steps, go through, onto the front porch, and then you could go through the front door, and then her couch was sitting straight ahead of the front door, so she could see, out the front door through the porch and then out down the sidewalk. And they had a yard light with shade trees out there, so it was shaded, but you could still see. One time, whatever this creature was, it stood out on the sidewalk in the summer night when she could see it standing on the sidewalk. It reached its hand out, and her name was Helen. It started saying her name, Helen, and it was doing the come here with its hands.
Oh my
And
gracious.
it did that till they got up and shut the doors and locked everything. And then they would put blankets over their windows. That way it couldn't see them walking in the house.
Man.
But yeah, it never said like any sentences, It was always like a one word. It didn't, put sentences together. It
Mm-hmm.
was really weird. And then when she had her stroke, and this is how I know that they're intelligent. She had a bell. They gave her a bell to ring, so if she needed anything, she'd ring the bell, and they knew to get up, and go to her room and see what she needed. And they got where at night they were hearing a bell ring, and they would go to Granny's room. And Granny was asleep, and that started happening a lot. And come to find out, whatever it was, was mimicking the bell ring to watch the girls walk past Granny's window to go to her bed. It was watching them through the window. Yeah.
Wow. Just to get the girls to go by.
Yes. Yeah.
Were
Yeah.
were were your were the girls blonde?
My mom's blonde. Yes. Yep.
I hear they're very attracted to blonde females.
Yep. She's blonde, and she was the worst one. And matter of fact, my uncle was so afraid that it was going to get my mom that they put a solid oak door in the back of my granny's house. And he was a welder. He worked for the coal mines. He welded for them, and he put like bars through the house with plates and down the door. And he said the only way anything is going to come in that door is if it tears the whole back of the house out, because he was so afraid it was going to get my mom. Because one night my mom was going down there to watch my granny, and they had an old Mustang that sat out there by the old hog pasture and didn't run for a long time. They had a warning that they would flash the porch light, if something was wrong, to tell the other ones not to come back or to leave. So when my mom went to go do her watch that night, she was running a little late. It was dark, and my aunt looked out the window, and as my mom was, preparing to get out of the car to get her bags and stuff for the night and everything, they watched this thing come out of the hog lot and crawl into that old car that my mom would have to walk past to come into the house.
Oh,
And of course,
gracious.
they started flashing the porch light.
My goodness. How fortunate. That's just God blessing them to, he'd have got her for sure.
That's what I always thought too. It was an ambush. It was waiting on her to come past that car.
Wow.
Did you have any weird things happen at your house, like that was unexplainable?
No, my mom and daddy were pretty well, they were Christian. My dad was eventually a preacher, but they were they prayed a lot, at the house. And out of all of Dad's kids, I was probably his worst. As a matter of fact, he told me when I was 40, I was his black sheep.
Right.
He said, "When you gonna straighten up, boy?" I said,
Yeah.
"Maybe one of these days, Daddy, I will." And I think I did before he passed. I got more straight than I ever was. But they did. We didn't have any. You know, yeah, I've seen UFOs, things like that. But we never had any activity that we thought maybe was demonic or paranormal, something like that, around our house.
Good. The reason I ask is a lot of people say that those coincide with a sighting or whatever, and I'm kind of hard headed on that. I have a different theory, and
Yeah.
I think it's possible that a spirit could follow them, but I'm the flesh and blood guy that everybody argues with.
Yeah.
I don't know. I try to base everything. The way I investigate it is I investigate it on facts, and I take the Bible as facts, and I try to go
Oh,
from
me
there.
too. Yeah.
That's the way I am. It's the Word of God, and I know it to be true, so I base all of it from there. Uh, you know, you said you had a Bigfoot encounter, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. And a Dogman encounter.
So
The Sasquatch was 62.
what did that one? How did that happen?
The Dogman, they had put in a new section of Foothills Parkway around Wallen, from Wallen up to Wares Valley, Tennessee, and it was again a December day in 2020. It was cold enough. I was riding my Harley. It was cold enough that I had to have my chaps, my leather jacket, and some big gloves on, but I wanted to ride up that new section of mountain, and it's a really, really nice. They did it so people could look out over the valley, Wares Valley and area. So I had ridden up Foothills Parkway, first time I'd been on it, since it opened to Wares Valley, and then I rode from Wares Valley up to Pigeon Forge to the Harley shop, piddled around a little bit, and I rode back. And I thought, well, there's two ways to get out of Wares Valley. You can come straight down the 321 and come through the curves in the mountains, or you can take the new parkway and makes it longer. It makes a 20-mile trip about a 30-mile trip by going the parkway. But I decided I'd go back the parkway. Um, it was still daylight. It wasn't dusk or dark. Um, I had I like loud pipes on a Harley, and I had straight pipes with fish fin tips on it, and it talked to you. So going through the mountain, I was just going about 30 mile an hour, listening to my pipes just make a
Yeah.
good sound, and I'd downshift and then speed up a little bit and let them rattle, echo out in the side of the mountain there. And I came around this curve, um, and the left of me was the drop off and the guardrail. And from any of those curves, you can see out into Wares Valley in spots, and then you can see out into Townsend in spots. And standing right just this side of the guardrail, it's like everything went to slow motion. Um, I had backed off on my pipes going around this, on my Harley going around this, and the pipes, I didn't have any mufflers, any baffles in that thing at all. So it would backfire, just rattle, pop, 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 pop. And when I come into this curve, there was something standing on the left side, just inside the guardrail by the highway. And it's like everything in me just turned to jello. This thing was over 7 foot tall, jet
That's a big
black,
one.
jet black,
Black.
um, standing on two legs. It had its mouth open, but its tongue wasn't out. Um, it had man arms and man hands, and it had almost like a man chest. It was a dog. It was a black. It had a snout. It had ears, more like a wolf, but the nose was sharper, come to a sharper point. And that dude was looking at me like he wanted to just run through me. It's like I say, everything almost went to slow motion when I think about it. Um, this thing was gargantuan. I mean, I'm a big man. Um, I don't know how much it weighed, but I know it was tall. It was hands above me sitting on that Harley, and if I'd have stood up, it wouldn't have made any difference. But just before I got to it, it lunged, and I was one lane away from those lanes are about 10 foot lanes, or not 12 foot lanes, somewhere between a 9 and a 10 foot lane. It lunged forward, and it was almost like when it hit the ground on all fours, it's like it was trying to tear the highway up. It was moving so fast. The speed was, I can't tell you. The speed was blinding. This thing got away from there so fast, and it went across the road and down, and there was a part of the forest there that was just, it didn't drop off or anything, but it was kind of open. The trees were scattered a little bit, and when it went into that forest, it never looked back, never checked up. I mean, it just tore the ground up. moving through there. I don't. If I had to guess a speed to it, it's just like a rocket took off. This thing left there so fast, but when this thing left there, I had just a normal windshield on my Harley, and I could still see him above that windshield on four legs. So that windshield, when I was standing still, I could lay my arm. I'm 5'10". I could lay my arm on my windshield standing beside it. So it was probably 42 inches, from the top of my windshield. But I was riding a 2002 Road King with 16-inch apes on it. And the seat wasn't lowered. The bike wasn't lowered. But that dude, Scott Carr, I live probably, if I could, point a gun, I could shoot his house from where I live. I live real close to him. He don't know me. I don't know him, but I watch his channel. And he's got a lot of pictures of Dogman in Blount County, Tennessee, and Walker County and down around Vonore and the Great Smoky Mountains. But there are dogmen here, and I seen one.
So they're big, huh?
That one was huge. He was. If I was to stand up beside him, just his girth crossed his shoulders. It was a male. It was definitely a male. He did have a tail. He was standing on 2 feet, and he had arms and hands like a man. And that just makes my whole body twinge when I say that.
Oh yeah.
But I've never rode my Harley back up on that road again. I just haven't had the opportunity. I'm not afraid to. I always wear a 1911 45 on my hip. I don't care if I'm just going to Walmart. I'm wearing, I just traveled.
I'm a 45 fan also.
Yeah, I don't go anywhere without my 45. Matter of fact, it's right here beside my bed right now.
Yeah.
But I just took a trip to Alabama, and it was on my hip. Everywhere I went, got out, I just wear it open. I don't cover it. It just is what it is.
That's what I say too.
I carry it cocked and locked, and it's loaded in one in the chamber. And when I drop the safety on it, it's work time.
That's it.
I don't worry. I don't worry about it. I would do what I had to do. It's flesh and blood. You can kill it. It would probably cost me dearly, but I wouldn't try to run from it because that'd be pointless.
Yep.
I stand my ground and do my fighting. However that came out, it'd just be how it came out. But
hesitation is what gets you killed.
Yes,
I'm just like you. I carry mine in the open. I've always carried mine in the open, and I always said, seeing it on my side, that's your verbal warning. You ain't going to get another one.
No.
I'm going home.
That's what I always told my prisoners when I was a prison transport officer. At the end of the day, I'm going home, brother.
That's right.
I hope you intend to come back to your cell because, push come to shove, I'm still going home.
Better judge by 12 than carry by 6.
I had a good federal judge friend told me that. He said, you carry a gun. And he said, we'll worry about the particulars later.
That's it.
I have hunted. I hunt Tennessee now. I don't worry about running into them. It's not something in the back of my mind. I wasn't anticipating seeing that one. But I know what I saw.
I'm glad you bring that up.
I was close enough to him that he could have run through me and it would have just looked like a bike wreck.
Correct.
Um,
And I get a lot of people tell me what you're saying, and I'm the same way. I hunt and fish all the time, and people say, "Well, how do you do that?" And what they don't understand is a lot of my videos that I put out, it may be, God, I'm in the woods all the time, and you may only get an encounter or a sound once in maybe 2, 3 months. And there's places that you can go to that I know are hotter spots than others. And, there's places that I won't take, people that I know is a bad spot. But, people don't understand it. You're not going to see them every time you go out. It just
right.
seems like there's that one time, I found a place I'm wanting to go back to that I believe one may live in it. There's a big oak tree and it's built like a circle around it with big old logs and it has a doorway and everything. And
Wow.
I'm going to go back. It's in the middle of nowhere, and I'm going to get the guts up and I'm going to look inside it. I didn't look inside it last time because I had my sister with me, and
Put a
totality of circumstances. I didn't want to put her in a bad situation, so I'll go alone when I do that.
put a GoPro on a pole and stick it in there first, brother.
Yeah, yeah, because it's a massive thing that it built. It's really neat. I'm ready to go see it again.
Yeah. When I'm in the woods hunting, I got a 45-70. That's all I ever carry is a 45-70. Unless I'm hunting turkeys, and then I have 12 gauge. But if I'm hunting a bear or deer or whatever else, I've got a 45-70, and that's all I carry with my sidearm 45.
That
And
45-70 don't do it. Ain't nothing going to do it.
it's never failed me. I've never had to chase game, not one time.
I wouldn't
Everything I've
imagine.
shot, everything I've shot has just dropped.
Yeah.
But I try not to shoot through the heart. I usually try to take a neck shot or a high shoulder shot, and it just decimates whatever it hits. I shoot a 405 grain bullet, and
That ought that ought to do it.
yeah, that's a lot of lead. That's a lot of lead.
So did it
Uh,
did it have claws? Did you notice if it had claws?
it had fingers, but I didn't. I didn't. When I was going into this curve, I was tilting to the right, and it was just off to my left, about a 45-degree, and I was still conscious that I was turning, and I wasn't letting off a lot because I've ridden Harleys for 51 years, so I was still paying attention to what I was doing with my bike, but I was looking at that thing up and down. He was looking at me, and I don't know if it was my pipes agitating him because he had his mouth open like the pressure was, he just had his mouth agape, but his tongue is not like he was panting, but his mouth was open, and he was just staring at me like, I'd like to rip your head off. But then he went down and went across the highway. His hands were down far past his waist. They weren't. He didn't have man legs. He had dog legs.
Did they
Um,
look weird or did he look comfortable standing up? Or did he look uncomfortable?
he looked like he was just standing on a street corner smoking a cigarette. He looked real comfortable to me, but in the, by the same token, he didn't look all that comfortable in his facial expression because I guess either I caught him. He had just come up the mountain out of. He had to be around Walland because you could see Walland out in the distance, but he had just come up the mountain and over that guardrail when I come into that curve. Um, and why he stood there long enough for me to get that close to him, I don't know.
I'll bet you
Uh,
all crossed each other at just the wrong time. He was coming up and you were coming around.
yeah, it was the wrong time for me for sure. I don't know what he thought about all that noise, but it's like I say, everything was so slow motion. Um,
And you're not going to outrun him, huh?
well, I might could have outran him on that hog, but I don't know if could have or not. I've heard stories about him running 60 mile an hour. Um, there's a lot of curves up in there, and you just can't dive through them curves on a Harley. Nothing happens fast on the Harley but a wreck.
Right.
They don't corner well. They're good to look at and fun to hear and fun to drive, but they're not speed bikes necessarily. You can get them up around 100, and I have, but it's not a go wing, and it's not a sport bike.
Right.
It's just a big old steel frame, lumbering piece of metal.
And that's why I tell people when they have their kids out with them and stuff, pay attention to where your kids are, because like you said, how fast they can move. And a lot of kids, when they come up missing, they say, well, my kid was just right there and then he was gone. And then,
Right,
whenever the police come in and they do a ground search, they base it on the age of the child, how far the child, moves within a certain amount of time. And they,
right,
they pattern off a grid. What they're not putting into the equation, it's not the kid's speed. Something that's moving a lot faster has that child, and
right.
that child is already out of that grid.
Yeah. When that thing went across in front of me, it didn't make any noise with its mouth. It didn't growl, didn't scream, didn't holler. But the noise of it running through the woods, it was moving some land. It was like I say, it looked to me like it was trying to just tear the ground up when it left there. It left there in a powerful. I thought, my gracious, that thing's powerful. And it was so fast, almost. Well, it was so fast that it was like 6 months before I could justify what I seen and was willing to even write it down on a piece of paper. Because it left there so fast, I almost, when I got 2 or 3 curves away, I thought, what did I just see?
Right.
Uh, what was that? Um, and it's like it took me a while for my mind to just rationalize that out, because it was like nothing I'd ever seen or anything I want to see again if I can keep
And
from
and then it makes you wonder: is it cutting across there to cut me off at the next curve?
it. Well,
That's what I'd have been thinking.
I don't remember much about the rest of that ride down to the Wallen, where that parkway ends. You can go across and go over another mountain to Chilhowie Lake, in 129, what you call the Dragon's Tail, where everybody rides the dragon. Um, but that was, there again. It was in December and it was cold, and I don't know if December is the magical month, but it was December when I saw the Sasquatch, and it was December when I saw the Dogman. I haven't. My wife don't even know I've seen that Dogman.
Well,
Not
it's interesting
total.
too that it was black, because the one my mom seen, it was black. And I've been digging into the Brenda Hamilton case a little harder this week, and there's something black I found out that happened there too that they tried to cover up. 3 days
Really?
prior, 3 days prior to her death, it
Wow.
was a, it was a 911 call.
Is that right? I watched your update today. Just after we got home, we traveled back from Alabama, and I watched the update, and I just can't believe that they would change facts and figures to meet a narrative that doesn't make any sense.
It's definitely not protocol. I would have fired my officers for that.
I have written up reports, and I just put in them what it was.
That's
I
it.
don't. I never changed a report for anybody. I was asked to change a couple of reports
Right.
because they wanted to make something else happen. I wouldn't do it. Um, and fortunately for me, my commanding officer said, just leave it like that, and if you need to get something else done, try to do it another way, because Ramey's not going to change this. He's not going to change his
Yeah.
his report for nobody. So
I was
um,
a captain for 8 years,
I
and
never rose up that far.
I was a captain at 38 years old, and
Wow.
I was a captain, and I was also the lead investigator. Um,
Mm.
I took a lot of extra classes, a lot of extra schooling. I took everything that came along. I started when I was 18, though. I sat behind the desk when I was 18 until I was old enough to carry a gun to hit the streets at 21. So that's all I've ever known.
Sure.
I went deep into it, stayed in it, took all the extra classes. I have my I'm a federal terrorism response agent. I have all my training for that. I've
Wow.
done a lot of training. But yeah, I mean, you know when the reports when they start redacting, and I've seen it. You know the politics how it works too. If
Yeah.
something comes up, for instance, one part of town, you got your rich part of town, then you got your poor part of town. Your
Hmm.
rich part of town, a lot of the supervisors are told from up above them, if you get something that can be downplayed, downplay it. And the reason they do that is they try to keep the crime rate lower in those areas because it affects property, it affects everything. And it's sad they do that, but I've learned that when they start redacting, because you get a new officer in there and your new officers come out of school, well, they're told, report, observe everything you see, and they do. They do their job. But
Yeah.
when it comes up to the lieutenants and the sergeants, they're what they call damage control, and they say, well, let's move that from disorderly conduct, down to, just disturbing the peace or something. And I've
Hmm.
seen that many times, and I refuse to do it. I would never do it. They wrote it. I signed it and sent it up because I wasn't there. He seen it. He was the reporting officer. And if you can't trust your officers, then you got problems. Teams don't fail, leaders do.
If you're gonna change your officer's report, they get it eventually. It gets to, I'm not gonna write a report.
Yep. And in Oklahoma, I don't know how it is elsewhere, but in Oklahoma, it's actually illegal for somebody to change the report, but it does happen. And they
Yeah.
send it down to them and they tell them, need your signature on this.
Hmm.
It, it's sad.
It is sad, and it's more commonplace than we know about.
It is. There's an agenda,
Definitely.
and well, it money talks. It always has.
Well,
And
we had prisoners break. You would hear about that 2 states away, but people in town never know they got out.
yep, yep, yep.
They never had a clue if a prisoner got out. And someone would say, I heard a prisoner escaped from such and such prison. And they'd say, really? Well, we didn't hear that. We don't think it happened. But local news for local consumption, um, they just didn't put that out there.
They have an agreement, and I'm probably going to get kicked in the ass for saying this, but I'm going to spill the beans. They have an agreement at the police department that I worked at that the press will not in that town put anything bad out about them until they give them a 72-hour notice to come and talk to them and get it worked out. They have an
Wow.
agreement. They have an agreement with the press.
Hmm. So what do they sweeten the pot with to get them to do that? Because if it bleeds, it leads. Um,
Well, there's a large mall in that town that is owned by ConocoPhillips,
mhm.
which ConocoPhillips owns the town. They
Okay.
own the police department and everybody there. If you stop certain individuals, their tag won't even come back. You'll get nothing. And then you'll get a phone call from a supervisor. Let them go. I'll take care of it later.
Hmm. Money talks.
Money talks. And that's how it works. They and if they don't like you, your business will not succeed. They'll make
That's
sure of
bad.
it.
That's bad.
It's terrible. I hate politics. I hate the way they do it. Because I wrote I wrote the mayor a citation. I don't care who you are. If you break the law, I think you're no better than anybody else. And he told me, he said, "You know who I am?" When I stopped him, he rolled a stop sign. And I said, "Yes, sir, I know who you are." And I said, "License registration." He goes, "You know who I am, right?" And I said, "Yes, sir, but I need your license registration." I cited him. It was dropped, but I did cite him.
Mm. I had a friend in Texas that wrote his mama a speeding ticket.
Yep.
That was a reputation. He was a reputation for being straight laced, and now he's a judge.
Oh, there you
He was a state trooper in Texas, and he wrote his mother a speeding ticket. That I laugh every time I talk to him. I said, tell me that's not true. He said, oh, it's true. It's true. But
go.
you
Right,
could depend on his word. What he
right,
said is what he meant.
right.
And I trust a guy like that.
You know, I had a lot of people tell me about Bigfoot. They'd ask me, why are you so stuck on him being flesh and blood, flesh and blood, flesh and blood? You know, I have a lot of thoughts on it, but one of my thoughts is if they can cloak and they're
Yeah.
interdimensional, then why are they living in the woods eating out of dumpsters? That's my first thing. And then, you know, number two, my uncle is a United States Navy SEAL, and he can put his ghillie suit on. You can go out in the middle of a pasture, and he'll be on you before you ever know he's there. He's proved it to us.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, he doesn't live in the woods all the time, and he's able to do that. Now,
Mm-hmm.
think if you lived in the woods and your existence depended on you being able to hide, to hunt, and to be stealthy like that, you're going to be a professional of your environment.
Sure you
And
are.
that's what I look at them. They are professionals of their environment. Humans, you know, we've been brought into the cities and stuff, and we've lost a lot of our sixth senses, our smelling, our hearing. They haven't. They
Yep.
have tuned theirs. And I always tell people, like on your Harley that day, the reason it may have ran from you is you had your sidearm on. I believe they can
I don't
smell the
know.
gunpowder. They can smell the cleaner. They know what those weapons are. And
Highly
that
possible.
could have saved you.
Yeah. You know, I never I thought of that. I don't know if I just wonder if it was the noise. You know, I've started also. I'm going to carry an air canister horn with me because I don't think they like super loud noises all of a sudden.
I carry a pocket full of those firecrackers you can throw. You know, you don't have to light that explode.
Right.
I carry a pocket full of those, and that they've worked for me at getting rid of predators and stuff that come up to the tent and stuff. They work real good.
Yeah. I have. I just think it'd be better than getting in a gunfight. You know, if I can hurt his ears and make him run off with these loud air horn canisters, like you take to a football game and blow. Um,
Yes.
if that gives me a minute or two, you know, I may can throw some lead at him in a decent way rather than just throwing lead.
And I've
If
had
I can
people tell
get
me, you know, why didn't you shoot that green thing when it was at the back of your truck? And what people don't understand is, number one, my family's there and my kids. And there's nothing worse than something that's wounded. And what if there's more than one?
yeah,
I mean, you know, you shoot it and hurt it. And if they have, you know, they think like we do, and that's a family member, you're going to cause an all out attack. If I can get my family loaded and I can get them out of there without causing a situation like that, that's my
all right,
goal. You
all
know,
right,
just, but, you know, a lot of people, well, I'd have shot it, I'd have shot it, I'd have shot it. Yeah, you can shoot it, but you also might end up on the news as one of them people they found drowned naked too down there and they don't know why. Because, you know, the
yeah.
game
At
warden,
what cost? Yeah,
yeah, I mean, and you know how it works. You see it on the news all the time. They know people are not dying from drowning, but there's a narrative, and
yeah. Well, I'm
that's
not
what they
sure
do.
why they have to protect all of
The
this
only
information, but they do.
the only reason I can come up with, honestly, I thought about that and I looked into it, and I think probably is liability. If they admit that this creature exists for as long as they said he hasn't, they're going to be liable for all the deaths that it's caused, all the damage. The national forests, where they make all their millions and millions of dollars, they're going to lose campers, they're going to lose hikers. It's going to be detrimental to their funds. And they
It
know
will
that
be.
if they admit this, they're going to go bankrupt because they're going to be sued. They're going to lose everything. The national forests are going to fall. Nobody's going to go. And then, you know, a lot of people don't even know this. The national forests fall underneath the federal law, which means everything that happens in those national forests, they don't have to share with local, state law enforcement. They deal with it themselves. They can
And that's
hide
pretty much
anything
what they
they
do.
want. Yep, that's what they do. And
Yeah.
If they say yes, it does exist, well then you're liable for it, and they're going to get sued, and they know this,
Mm.
and there's a reason that they protect them. I'm not sure why they protect them. Maybe they're studying them, trying to get maybe DNA from them. You know, you get a lot of people talk about these super soldier projects and all that.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, the little boy, the Dennis Martin boy. I
Yes.
spoke. I spoke to a family member of his on the phone, and he told me that Dennis Martin's family, uh, before him, they used to hunt them things and kill them for the government. If that's true or not, I don't know, but he told me that's what they done. And he said that Dennis Martin should have never have been in there because these creatures knew their family because they had hunted them. He said whenever Dennis Martin was took, the family was told by the special forces, we're not going in to save him. They was going to kill him with those things because they could not allow him to come out with what he had seen. And he said that the family knows that Dennis Martin was burned with the rest of those things inside the national park. That's what he
Mm.
told. That's what he told me.
I don't doubt it.
You know, I mean,
I don't doubt it.
it wouldn't surprise me either.
I know that back in the 70s, maybe the late 60s or the 70s, they they I've heard a story that said that they had a Sasquatch in captivity. The government did, and it wasn't doing well, and it couldn't survive, and so they took it to Cage Cove, which I'm 13 miles maybe from Cage Cove. Um, they took it to Cage Cove and released it in the wild. So I don't know if it survived. I know they can live 60, 70 years.
Right.
Um, I did talk to a guy in West Virginia, and I asked him a question that surprised him because he has terminated several.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, have you ever had to deal with a white Sasquatch on the Fayette County, Kanawha County line? And his answer to me was, how on God's green earth could you know that? I've never told
Yep.
anyone that. I said, well, I encountered him in 62. I don't know when you encountered him, but I encountered a white one in 62 on the Fayette Kanawha County line. Um, and he said, I did, and I dispatched it. Now, was there more than one white? I don't know. But I know what I saw there.
Right.
And he had never told that story. He has a Bigfoot blog um, show, but he said, I've never told that story. I don't know how you could know that. I said, I didn't know it. I just
Right.
asked if you had dealings with it. He said, I have. I have in that area. And I said, well, that's where I saw one white.
I'm confident that the one I shot at my granny's, me and my cousin, I'm confident that it died. Uh,
Yeah.
it had to have died. I done a video on it. It's called In the Cattails, but it come running in the cattails at us. It come right up on us, and I was
Mm.
carrying a 410 single shot 410, and he had a 22 semi-automatic. And when it ran up on us, I shot it point blank, and he shot it, and it fell. It just dropped, just like anything else would. You know, it was about the size of a bear cub running on its hind legs. Nothing massive, bulky. You know, it was big, but it wasn't massive, and
Mm.
it fell. And when it
Mm.
fell, we heard it hit the tin that Grandpa had that went across the creek that we'd walk across so we didn't get our feet wet. You know, where the pond drained, and it just fell. Of course, I started reloading, and when I was reloading, it did get up and it ran up behind the chicken house. Well, Grandma and them heard the gunshot, so they pulled the car around, had the light shining. It was behind the chicken house, and you could hear it growling, and it was scratching its nails, it sounded like, down the back of the tin. And of course, they made us go inside, and we ended up calling my uncle. He was in Vietnam, and then my dad came down, and they got to looking. There was a huge puddle of blood where I shot it, that thick blood, you know, you get with a arterial hit or an organ hit. And it
Mm-hmm.
went plumb up behind the chicken house with even a larger puddle. Well, something took off running, and my uncle thought it might have had like a pig or something on its back. Grandpa raised pigs, But later, after we got to thinking about it, it was probably carrying the wounded or dead one that I'd shot off with it because we never found the body.
Mm.
So it's
You think it might
probably
have been a mother?
it could have been. And they said it's probably a good thing that I didn't go back there because she was probably waiting on me.
Yeah, she wanted to get a little
Yeah.
payback.
And it did get worse after that for a while. I was going to the restroom. It would have been the next night. And when you walk, through them old houses, they creak. And
Hmm.
of course, I was trying to be quiet going to the bathroom because I was scared. My cousin was staying all night there at my granny's. And I get right to where you step into the laundry room, you'd take a left and go into the bathroom, where straight ahead was the back door. As soon as I stepped into that back room, man, that doorknob went to rattling and it just started hitting that door. And I
Oh
remember I
God.
turned around and just ran to my granny, scared to death. And I had an old 30-30. I grabbed the 30-30, and she had a 32 pistol that she always carried. I actually have it. She left it to me. I'll have to show y'all sometime. She had that and a butcher knife in her hand. And it stopped. But it knew I was at that door. And I just know in my heart, if that door would have been unlocked or it could have knocked that door open,
It
it, it,
had you.
it would have came in.
Yeah.
Scared me to death.
Mm.
It was probably one of the most that really, really scared me. I mean, I just felt like it was going to hurt me, it. And then after that, it started calming down. It went back to the normal, the hollering, the screaming. The grandma compared its breathing to a coffee pot perking. She said that's
Really?
what it sounded like to her, like an old
Yeah.
coffee pot, perking.
Yeah. Percolator. Yeah.
Yeah, and it would do that. That's what she said. She said that's what it sounded like.
Wow. Wow. I've made many a pot of coffee with a percolator.
She did too. They always had coffee, and sometimes it was on the stove. They keep it warm, but she said
Yeah.
that's what it reminded her of.
Mm.
Well, I've had you on here over an hour, so if there's anything you want to say, I'll let you go ahead and say it, and then I'll cut you loose if there's anything you'd like to add or say.
I appreciate you having me on your show, and I'm a longtime fan, and always watch your shows and try to make a comment. But I wish you the best. I do wish you the best, man.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. I'm honored to have you on tonight, and I've learned a lot from you, and I think everybody else has too. And you're a good person, and God bless you, and God be with you. And I look forward to seeing your comments in the future ones.
Same to you, Mike. God bless you, brother.
All right. Well, we'll end it right here. And I appreciate everybody watching. And everybody give Sky King a big thanks for being here. And we appreciate his stories and him taking the time to be with us. Thank you, guys. God bless. And we'll see you on the next one.